Welcome, everyone, back to our second podcast of Movie Potluck. Really excited for this one. I've been thinking about it all week, and we're going to look at, well, actually, you know what? Let's use a better word. We're going to scurry into the world of little critters. Uh, I absolutely love this theme. There are so many amazing movies that have all of these kind of little even if they're not alien creatures or monster creatures, they are awesome creatures that sometimes are special effects, sometimes they're practical effects. We've got things like the ghoulies and hobgoblins, gremlins, of course. Bad Milo was one that just came out a while ago. The Brood. I mean, there are so many. So our picks tonight are all going to be about little guys, and I wanted to I wanted to first say that the theme here, hold on a second, uh that the theme here that we came up with was sort of, for me, this was an idea that I had from a long time ago, that I remember when I was a kid and I had watched um this movie called The Brood, right? Probably shouldn't have watched it, but I watched it and it was about these little kids. And really, they didn't have a lot of form to begin with, but then later you saw that they were like super scary looking. And actually, you know what? They were not scary looking. I mean, when I go back and I watch that now, it was not very scary. But the idea that they were just scurrying around and causing all of this mayhem with knives and stuff, and it always makes me laugh when I look back on these movies now, because you're like, well, why didn't you just run away? I mean, honestly, they're little, they're not going to move very fast. So I'm this sort of has like a long history with me. And before I introduce my cast, I just want you all to know that I had a lot of fun going back and watching all of these movies. I hope you guys are inspired to send us a suggestion of one of these movies that you like to watch. And again, creepy crawlies, yeah, there's lots of bug movies. I'm specifically talking about the really special little critters. So, I'm going to introduce my panel for the day. One, we have Josh. Josh, how are you tonight?
I'm doing super fantastic.
And Josh, I know that you're not a little critter, but if you could be a little critter, what little critter would you be?
Well, I think the obvious choice is a mogwai.
Oh,
Could do
awesome.
a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, it means no midnight snacks.
No, but the cuteness factor is off the charts. So, I mean,
Nobody would be able to resist me.
it's true. I mean, Mogwai actually, I think, almost compete with Grogu. So, yeah, I think you got it there.
That's a
Yeah.
battle I want to see.
Okay. Tori, how are you tonight?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Super awesome. And so,
Awesome.
same question, Tori. If you could be a little critter, what little critter would you be?
I'm gonna say a hamster, and the reason why is because they live a good life. They get
Ooh.
food delivered to them. They have a treadmill. They have a little water bottle. They got the whole setup, man. They they
So,
they live the hamster life.
I don't have a movie with a hamster in it, but I do have a series that my kids used to watch. Do you remember Hamtaro? Did you ever watch
No,
Hamtaro? Oh, wow.
no.
You don't know what you're missing. Go and watch Hamtaro.
Okay.
Yes, it is absolutely right up that alley. And yeah, yeah, I mean, he had a terrifying life, but I guess it was pretty awesome.
It was
So,
adventurous. It was
it was
adventurous.
very adventurous, yes. Okay, I'm gonna introduce first the movie that I chose, but I'm gonna do this a little bit different this week. I'm gonna say the movie that I chose, and then I'm gonna have you guys tell me the movie that you chose, and then we will discuss the differences and the similarities between all of these. And I have a feeling they're gonna be super different. So I chose the movie Critters. Do you all know what the movie Critters was and what it was about?
Mm-mm.
What about you,
Nope.
Josh?
I remember seeing it when I was a kid. Not much about the actual plot, but the iconic critters are unforgettable.
Did they scare you at all, or was it just something like you just saw it and it was no big deal?
I think I just saw it. It was no big deal. I don't recall ever having bad thoughts about the critters.
So the functional part about critters is that they're from outer space, right? And then there's these two bounty hunters that come and try to catch them, and they've got superhuman abilities, and but the critters are really pretty powerful. And well, powerful by, I guess, extension, they are extremely mischievous. And okay, so but they're also just these sort of, if they had made action figures or like little plushies out of critters, I think I would have bought them. Even if they were, yeah, even if they look like they did in the movie, I think I'd still would have bought them. So Josh, what movie did you pick? So that's my pick. What did you pick?
Well, I picked a movie that I know you're familiar with, and it's an interesting one to say the least. I chose Don't Be Afraid of the Dark.
Oh, which one did you pick? The 1970s version, or did you pick the 2000s version with
Oh,
from Guillermo?
of course, 1973.
Of course, yes. Both are terrifying. Okay, and I don't mean the movies are terrifying actually, but those creatures are actually like crazy, weirdly scary. Yeah, I
Until you
yeah.
break down the plot and you come to a few unfortunate truths about not only the story but the people surrounding the person.
Um, I feel like that's the same for both movies, and quite honestly, I have never seen a movie that deals with little critter people, creatures, or things that has ever been done like, oh my god, this is a 4-star movie that everybody needs to watch. I've just never seen one. If there is one, tell me what it is. I mean, even
Gremlins.
Gremlins is campy and crazy, you know. It's not that great of a movie, but it's fun. So,
Sacrilege.
okay, Tori, tell us what movie you picked and tell us about your critters.
Okay, so I picked Willow because I loved the brownies, the little, I guess, like pixie type creatures that help Willow and Val Kilmer. I forget his name in the movie, but they help them
His name is
whenever.
Mad Morgan.
Yes, yes, yes. So, I mean, the whole movie's great, but I think the brownies really put a touch of home to it, you know?
So, okay, I full disclosure, Willow is actually like right up there as one of my favorite movies. I am willing to watch Willow pretty much at the drop of a hat. Just say you're going to watch it and I will watch it. Um and I don't even understand why I'm so in love with it, but I am. I think, I don't know. Well, the brownies, there are some lines in there that they say that are just hilarious. But I have to say that I think that the best part of those brownies was, remember when they tied Willow and Migosh up with all of the, their rope, and they had them held down on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And Willow and Migosh are little. They are little dwarfs, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the brownies have them all tied up. And it was such a shout out to Gulliver's Travels, where Willow and Migosh are the giants and the brownies are basically like the Lilliputians. I thought it was hilarious. I thought that was
Yeah.
just such a great idea. So great.
Yeah, it's a great movie. There's a lot of one-liners in that movie that I really like.
I think also that one of the most interesting things about that little critter aspect of the movie is that actually, they weren't, they were essential to the plot, but they weren't the plot, right? So
Mm-hmm.
unlike Critters and unlike Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, those creatures are, the movie can't happen without them, which is interesting. It's interesting because basically the movie is made around them.
Right.
Um, so it's interesting that in your movie, your creatures are actually, they're part of the fairy race. They're cool. They're very cool. Also, I don't know if I want to hear any of the other creatures really have conversations the way the brownies did. If Josh, if you're, and what were they called? What did they call them in Don't Be Afraid of the Dark? What did they call the little monsters?
Let's see. I don't remember if they actually had like a name other than the creatures in
Um,
the original version.
because we because we always called them demons, and
It's as good
I
a
don't
name
think
as any.
I don't think they actually were demons, but we always called them demons. In the other movie, in the remake of this movie, they called them homunculi.
Oh.
They didn't say that like in the movie, but that's what they really were. They were like tooth fairies, sort of. Um, but that's different than in the original. In the original, they were definitely different kinds of monsters. Wouldn't Oh, well, you didn't see the other one, did you, Josh? Or did you?
Mm.
Josh, did you see the other one? Okay, well, somehow Josh is not there. Okay, so I don't know if he actually saw the other one, but in between the two of them, they treat the creatures very differently, right? The creatures that are in Don't Be Afraid of the Dark are specifically after one person. The creatures in Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, the remake, it's a little bit more nebulous. Yes, they're after the girl, but it doesn't feel like that's actually what's happening. So kind of
Mm.
interesting. Kind of
Yeah,
interesting that way.
that is interesting. I like pointing out differences between the originals and remakes, just because they both bring something to the table. You know, the original is of course the original and has different scenes that you grow to love, but then the remake can also bring a new light onto the story that you never might have thought possible before. You know, that's just my.
Right. Well, the original Don't Be Afraid of the Dark is the creatures look very I don't want to say that they look human-esque, but they look way more human-esque than they do in the Don't Be Afraid of the Dark remake, where they definitely look inhuman. They don't have the same aspect ratio at all. And part of it is, one is sort of way more CG, and one was clearly people dressed up. And they built these massive sets for these guys to walk around on. And I'm sure that they were small people, but they still, the stair scene comes to mind. They clearly built a giant staircase for these people to be on. And that kind of stuff kind of blows your mind, because that's when you realize when they're using practical effects and little monsters or little creatures, what went into thinking about the creatures themselves. Critters is the same way. There's so much of the set is built around what the little monsters can do, or what they're going to do, that it becomes this whole experience. And I think that's one way that Josh's movie and my movie kind of share a little bit of that. Is the creature part of the movie, or is the creature a piece of the movie that is just kind of ancillary, just there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I gotta ask this question because I feel like this is important. So if as an example, you had to hop into any one of these movies, which one would you hop into?
I would hop into mine because it's so magical and there's different magical aspects of it. There's, the evil queen and the brownies and all these, it's kind of like hot hopping into the world of Harry Potter. I think that's kind of similar.
So I'm just gonna say that maybe that might not be such a great idea because you're gonna miss indoor plumbing real fast.
Probably, yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And I don't know. I'm kind of with Mad Mardigan. Uh, I'm not super sure that I really love the brownies as much as I mean they're cute, sorta, but I don't know if I want them crawling all over the place. No, no, that's a little bit too
They're
freaky.
cleanlier than the other critters, right? Like I would think that they
I,
had better personal hygiene.
well, possibly. I mean, critters are actually trying to eat you, so
Yeah,
there's that. But
there's that.
Josh's pick, the little
Hmm.
creatures in Josh's pick, they are trying to drag you into a fireplace pit that basically goes down to an abyss of who knows where. I don't think we ever actually find that out, do we, Josh?
No, it's not clarified. So it
We
could
just
be a land of paradise.
except it's the fireplace, so I don't think anything really all that great is going to happen in the fireplace.
Hey, it could be anything down there. Portals are a thing.
Oh well, okay, all right. I guess I don't know. I saw them, and
I don't think they spent all that time bricked up in just the fireplace. They had to have something in there, right? I
okay.
always assumed there was like a portal to another dimension.
Oh, that's even actually kind of worse. So
But if
now
it's a
we
dimension of
basically.
paradise,
Oh, see, that's not where my mind went. Because, see, now I had the idea that we have these little creature guys, right? We got Sally, who was taken down into the fireplace. And now I have
hmm
Phantasm in my head, where they're like
nah.
dragged to some other world or something.
Here's the way I see it with what happens in Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. The creatures, they want to worship the woman, right? Because they
Yeah.
never really showed any interest in harming her.
No, no. They want her because she was actually related to the person who lived there before, I think.
So watching this, it seems, at least to me, that they had no ill will or ill intent towards this person. But on the other hand, the people that love her, her husband, her best friend, and the handyman treat her like she's nuts,
They do.
and they're terrible to her. They drug her. They they're just awful, awful people. She's surrounded by terrible people, and the my lasting impression of the original 1973 version, because I did not see the remake,
Okay.
um,
That's what we were
was
asking.
it was she might be better off.
Really?
Yeah, well, considering that the people around her are just toxic, and the little creatures don't look like they want to do any harm to her. If the choice was only the two, I might be going off with the little guys.
Okay, but they did try to basically murderize a bunch of other people in order to get to her.
And if
I'm
they succeeded, I'm not. I'm just saying it might not have been a terrible thing.
that's so terrible. Okay. All right. So Josh is rooting for the little critters on that one. Okay.
Hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about what it is that like draws the line between. I mean, obviously, like in my movie, where the critters are they're really malicious. I mean, there's no way around it. They're not nice. Um, what do you think makes the difference between the cute little critter and the sort of more terrifying little critter? Because I've seen it done where they think that what they're making is terrifying and this is supposed to be horrible, and it ends up being just kind of like cute in a way that is not really horrible? I mean, I know it's subjective, but where do you draw the line?
Let's see. It might start and end with body count,
Hmm.
really, because
Okay.
we saw both sides of this in Gremlins. You got cute little Gizmo, can't do any wrong, very heroic. And then you have his offspring that are gremlins. They are there to terrorize everything and everyone in their sight. They kill a lot of people, um, and do a lot of crazy, rampant destruction throughout the town. Although hilariously so, in some respects,
Indeed.
they're trying to fit into. You got to respect that, right? Going to the bar, hanging out,
Watching Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
singing along.
Yep.
I'm almost convinced that if they had toned down the destruction a little bit and managed to take over the town without destroying everything in their path,
Hmm.
I might look at them a lot more favorably. From
So
a good bad respect.
but the question is, if you are at FAO Schwartz and you are looking at all of these stuffed animals and you see a
Hmm.
mogwai and you see a
Uh,
gremlin,
uh,
you probably clearly have some cute issues with the gremlin. But is he cute?
mhm.
I don't know. I mean, and sometimes people go, "Oh yeah, Stripe is so cute," whatever.
Yeah, I could definitely say, considering all of the iterations of the Gremlins there were, and all of the different characters that kind of came out, there might be one or two that fall under the cute category. The ones that were there for more comic relief, like that the doofy one,
Oh
that
yeah.
always had his tongue hanging out and was like, I was like, okay, that's cute. That's cute. I mean, it's ugly as sin, but it's cute.
Okay, so let's hop over to Tory's brownies and tell me, first of all, Tory, do you think the brownies were cute? Were they
I think
adorable?
they were cute. I would say mischievous is more along the lines of what they were. But cute, yeah. The
But
little
would you
thing
buy them? Would you buy them as a plushie?
depends on what the plushie look like. Like it could look really creepy. Like they could make them look really creepy, or they could make them look like Beanie Babies. I don't know. It
So
depends on the marketing.
see, I have a problem with some of these, right? First of all, critters. They're called krites, I think. I'm pretty sure they were called krites. They are not cute. Okay, they have these huge teeth that are like sticking out of their mouth at all times, and they kind of look like something has gone genetically wrong with where the wild things are, and something and a tribble. It's like it's really terrifying. Okay, so they're not cute, but I have to say that there is something cute about them. Like, yes, I would never want to actually see one in person, but uh, the way that they're made with their eyes and their hair and stuff like that. I feel like the designers, whether I don't actually think they missed the mark, I think they intentionally meant to make them look like they were ridiculous. And in doing so, they also made them super cute. But now Josh's movie with our little uh demon guys, whatever we want to call them, our fireplace guests, um they are actually really ugly. And no, I would never buy an plushie with Josh's guys. So I guess what I was wondering is like, is sometimes some of our fear of creatures, any creature really, but especially little creatures who clearly are not that much of a threat to us, how do we decide whether they are like terrifying and ugly, or whether they're just like, yeah, they're just kind of cute and there, and oh yeah, they do these really horrible things. Or in Tory's case, I guess, they're I mean, I would not call those brownies cute. I would call them I don't know exactly what I would call them, but I don't know if I would call them cute. I mean, they were sweet because they had a good disposition and wanted to help and everything, but I don't know if I'd call them cute.
Yeah, the guys that played them weren't very cute. I'm sure if they were a little bit more, if they were a little bit better looking, like they might be cuter, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's actually true. Yeah, I think you could say that. Yeah, so yeah, just as an example, also in Willow, we had those big dogs. Do you remember those dogs? Right.
Hmm.
I don't think anybody in their right mind would call those dogs cute.
No, no.
They were really like, I don't know. They were frothy and bleh. They were not fun.
Yeah, no. I had a
So,
dog growing up, though. I had a Newfoundland growing up, right? And he was super slobbery. Like, he had slobber everywhere. He'd shake his head, it was on the ceiling. Like, ugh.
so maybe it goes back to Josh's point about intent, because I don't think I want any dogs in my house that are purposefully trying to kill a cradle. I mean, that just seems like that's a bad idea. So, yeah,
Yeah.
there could be that. All right, Josh, I have a question for you about Don't Be Afraid of the Dark.
Okay.
Okay. The question is, the little monsters that are there.
Hmm.
First of all, of all the creatures that are in all of our movies, Tori and Josh both have sentient, very clearly able to speak and communicate creatures. My movie, Krites are not really. The bounty hunters could communicate, but the little creatures were not really all that. Maybe they were sentient, but they couldn't talk. My question to you is: did it help the effect of your little monsters that they are able to speak, or did it actually harm their ability to be effective? Like, if we're gonna, I'll get to you, Tori, in 1 second, but if you think about how they were represented on the screen, did it make them less of a threat that they were able to communicate, or more of a threat?
Well, I think the simple answer is that made them more of a threat because they were displaying an incredible amount of teamwork.
Hmm.
In fact, more so than the actual people on the other side of the karmic fence there. They work together to get a job done to accomplish their goal, and honestly, that's admirable for one. And two, anybody that is capable of communication, especially in a team environment, are definitely a threat to anybody that stands in their way.
Okay. I mean, not so specifically, and again, because see, in my movie, there wasn't a lot of talking on the part of the creatures. There was a lot of chittering, and there was a lot of, but it wasn't a lot of talking. And yet they did seem to communicate in some way. So it was sort of just as kind of weirdly scary. But in your movie, because they could communicate with people, it it seems like that brings it to almost another level. And also because your creatures weren't, they were clearly not human. I mean, they weren't like little versions of humans.
Hmm.
What I found so interesting in on that side is their ability to communicate. I think you're right. I think it actually did make them scarier, but it also sort of like subterfuged the plot altogether. If they were able to communicate, why didn't they just hop up on her chest and say, okay, listen, we're here, we're going to drag you down there, you can make this easy or you can make this hard, what do you want to do?
Then you
I,
wouldn't have a movie, though, right?
well, okay, that's true, but listen, I am not going to give a pass to bad writing just because we wouldn't have a movie. No, I'm not going to do that.
Okay, fair enough.
It does make
I,
you wonder why they didn't, clearly verbalize their intent.
I mean, it wasn't like they were living off of her fear, so it wasn't like they needed to terrorize her, but somehow that became kind of like the thing. Like, oh yeah, we have to somehow scare her in order to make this work. And I honestly, years later, just don't understand that at all. I think it's an interesting idea, but yeah. I think it was actually more interesting for the people around her who didn't believe her because, oh, she's hearing things and seeing things and whatever. Yeah, I have to say, I find that the scariest thing in Don't Be Afraid of the Dark was not even the creatures, it was actually the people that were around Sally. It was really terrible.
Hmm.
Okay,
I
so
never saw that movie. I never saw that movie, so I'm like trying to keep on, like I'm like, yeah, that sounds great, but I don't really know, so I'm just.
we actually did a segment that was actually one of my picks when we did a Cinema du Fromage episode, and I thought it was campy enough to bring it to the table because it feels very campy, but but I also think that it is definitely a worthy movie to watch one time because it has such a unique, first of all, it has a very unique 70s feel to it, but secondly, it is one of those movies that's like, once you see, I think there's a reason that it was remade. Guillermo liked it for a reason. And you sort of see a lot of, his what made this interesting to him ideas in the second movie, which also I think have to do, Josh, with like what we were talking about before. Where do they go? Because it matters in the second movie. You can feel that they're really doing something with that. Um, okay, so Tori, tell me about whether you think it would have even worked in Willow if the brownies couldn't talk.
I don't think it would work out the same. I think that they would have been demoted in a character standpoint. They wouldn't be so important because they communicated enough to where they set people free and they could, help people out. And I think that if you take away their voice, you would take away that ability to help.
Also, let's face it, in Willow, the brownies were definitely comic relief on many levels. They
Yes.
were seriously comic relief. Okay. And also, as much as Mad Mardigan, and also, um, oh God, okay, now her name is going to completely escape me, but the princess,
Uh-huh.
Queen's daughter. Yeah, I'm such a fake fan. That's ridiculous that I can't remember her name. Also, I haven't had a lot of coffee today, so bear with me. Um, but even she says, "Oh my God, you're crawling with brownies," like it is just the most disgusting thing ever. So clearly, they're not exactly super. Uh, Nobody's really excited to see them. I guess is the best way to say it. Maybe we are, but not
They're like
anybody else is.
pests. Like maybe they're like rats to them,
Yeah, there we
like
go.
yeah.
That's perfect. Yes, that's perfect. Kind of like you're crawling with fleas, but yeah, you're crawling with brownies.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one more kind of big overarching question, and that is, do you think I started out with a whole bunch of movies, right? And I don't know if you've seen any of these, but some of these movies are kind of classics. Ghoulies is a real super classic. Uh, Bad Milo that came out a couple years ago is such a weird movie, but somebody reminded me about the movie Basket Case, which is just, oh my God, if you've never seen Basket Case, first of all, don't do it alone because you'll need somebody there for emotional support later. Um, and secondly, when you watch it, I mean, it's the most ridiculous concept ever. It really is. But it works on, honestly, it works on every single level. It's mentally messes with your head. You can really feel how afraid people are, and it all sort of revolves around this thing that it just feels like, oh my god, you should be able to just run away from this thing. Why can't people just run away from these things? I mean, I also have very similar feelings about the Chucky movies, and like, why is this little doll terrifying? I mean, kick
I
it.
always I always thought Chucky was kind of cheesy and like the bride of Chucky. Like it was just stupid. Like it was too stupid for me to find kitschy. You know what I mean? Like some
Right.
people might find that like, oh, that's kitschy and horror movie glam. But like honestly, I thought it was just bad writing and a bad movie altogether.
Well, and that's why I think that the concept of the little critter altogether is such an interesting idea that we keep going back to over and over again, but we keep sort of trying to make them scary, or in your case, important, when I wonder if that even is a possibility. Okay, the one movie that I will say, and I don't know if I would classify him as a little critter, but I'm going to say he was little, and the first movie really was, as campy as it was also really well done, and that was Leprechaun.
Oh yeah.
And I mean,
Okay.
he really was scary. That was a scary concept. And also, he has some magic. We know that he can do things that regular people can't do. Like, there were some pretty dark moments in that film.
There's a
And you
lot of dark lore in Scottish and Irish folklore too about
Yeah.
leprechauns. It's not just like Lucky Charms type leprechauns. They're actually like pretty evil, and they're like the trolls under the bridge. That's how I would compare them
See,
from reading it.
and we have, I think, in the West, and especially in American folklore, we have romanticized and sort of given a special romantic spin to fairies and leprechauns and creatures that are supposed to actually have much darker mythology around them. But that's not what but we come up with things like killer clowns from outer space and critters, and
Yeah.
things like that that sort of make us scared because this is what we find to be scary.
Right.
So it is that is actually kind of an interesting concept. It's always scary when stuff comes from outer space, because anything from outer space is unpredictable. We don't know what it's going to do. 9 times out of 10, it's here to feed on us, which is always
Yes.
a terrifying concept. And so I feel like critters sometimes can be not even scarier. It's a much darker concept. Don't Be Afraid of the Dark is the kind of film that exists in an odd trope world where, yes, you have these little creatures that don't even really have a name, and their faces look like giant almonds and raisins, and it shouldn't be scary, but it is somehow. There is this element of, well, what if things really did come up through your heating grate? Well, what if when you closed the bathroom door and opened up the medicine cabinet, something appeared there, and then the lights went out, and then you were like, oh my god, did I see that or didn't I see that? I mean, things like that are actually, I like those. I love those ideas. The question is, do the little creatures that we create, do they actually add something to our um I guess, I mean, I should sort of bridge it across genres, but specifically in horror, I feel like we do it a lot. In fantasy, it can be either nefarious or benevolent. It kind of depends. I think our brownies in Willow are definitely way more benevolent, but there's plenty of little creatures also in Willow that are not, that are actually,
Mhm.
they're not nice. They're mean. So okay, so last question for you guys. Do you think that size matters? Open-ended question. I am specifically talking about our creatures. Is there a point at which your little creatures sort of move from the realm of, yes, these are little creatures, to, oh my god, no, now we're talking about actual monsters?
I mean, Honestly, if my little creatures got bigger, they'd just be people. So like,
Yes, see, well, people with a little bit of comic relief. Yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
Okay.
some comic relief people. Yes, it's
What
just
about you,
funny to
Josh?
me.
Well, I think the only thing I can say is you can have huge dragons that are soft and timid, and you can have things the size of your thumb that will wreck you. So I don't think it's really the size that matters, but how much hell they can bring.
I think that's actually a pretty good summation because I'm with you. Anybody who has seen the Discovery Show Monsters Inside Me knows that there are crazy, scary things lurking out there. Uh, yeah,
That's
right.
that show just creeps me out at all sorts of levels.
So probably our little critters are it's way more like Josh said before about intent, body count, what defines them as uh as not being like, full monsters is really pretty subjective. But uh I do think that the little creatures, when they're done right, can be so amazingly fun. I mean, I don't know, again, how many people have seen Ghoulies and Gremlins, or the movie Hobgoblins, but they all follow this very similar narrative where there's something uh, really not even always scary, although Hobgoblins was, but Ghoulies wasn't exactly always scary. I mean, they served a purpose. It is always about whether the creatures are serving for the good or serving for the bad. And so, how we decide whether they are happy creatures or not happy creatures, I think is always sort of whatever it is that they do. Just as a side note, and I know that they're not actual. Well, yeah, actually, they are critters. I saw a movie very recently, which I do not suggest anybody watch. By the way, just don't watch it. Um, and a part of the reason that I say don't watch it is because, it was one of those movies that's like you watch it and then you have to ask yourself, okay, why did I watch that movie? Not. I mean, it's in the title, which I'll say in 1 second. And you should know that you shouldn't watch this movie because it's going to be crazy and stupid, but it goes so much further than that. It's called Attack of the Killer Donuts.
I almost thought you were gonna say Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, and I was gonna be like, that
Well,
is a very awesome film, ma'am.
okay, no. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes stands on a different level. Attack of the Killer
Okay.
Donuts does not stand on that level at all.
Okay.
Um, it and I mean, oh my god, the donut's superpower is basically uh I don't know how to say this in a way that is not offensive, but I mean, they basically turn you sort of inside out by you get super sick. You get super sick after you eat a donut that is one of these donuts. Yes, that's their superpower.
Oh
But
wow.
they also can like gang up on you, and watching a baker's dozen attack somebody is just absolutely there's no way it can be scary. It's just hilarious. There is no scare factor in it. There's also no redeeming value in that movie at all, but okay. Okay, so I am sort of behind on my movie recipe idea. Although I have the recipe, I didn't post it yet. But I'm going to start with you, Josh, and tell me what dish you think you are bringing to the potluck with your movie. What are you bringing? What's your "Don't Be Afraid of the Dark" recipe?
My Don't Be Afraid of the Dark recipe is a wonderful side dish that you can have with a good steak, maybe some pork chops, or even chicken.
Mm.
It is a delectable grilled potato.
Show us the
Yay.
picture, Josh. No, show us the picture of the Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, guys.
On it. Nope, that's not it. There it is.
There they are. Okay, see, I can see them with some sour cream and cheese. Yeah.
Add some sour cream, to represent the white lady they're saving. And in the end, it might just save them too.
Okay, that was great. All right, Tori, tell us what. I feel like this is way too easy for you. Tell us what dish you are bringing with your little critters.
I would go with a dessert fudge brownie.
I'm so shocked. I mean, like I almost feel like I
If
don't
I
have
did,
speech at this moment.
if I didn't say it, then there's something wrong with me.
So okay, so
Oh,
I'm gonna go you one better. All right, I'm gonna
okay.
say yes, absolutely. We should totally do brownies, but I'm gonna say that you should go hop on down to your local dispensary
Yes, make
and
them
you should
pot brownies.
supercharge those brownies because that is the only way to achieve true brownie comic relief
Well,
status.
like in Virginia, marijuana just became legal, so that is entirely possible, ma'am.
Just trying to get to that level of comedy, that's all.
Yeah, yeah. Then the brownies will be even more comic relief. It'd
That's
be great.
true. I totally agree. I feel okay. So we got the baked potato. We got the dessert. I did not bring a main dish either, and boy, now I'm feeling like our potluck is really a little bit lopsided because I brought hors d'oeuvres. My critters are, and I do. God forgive me for not having this up, but I even have the eyes for these things. I made Crite cheese balls because they're called
Mm.
Crites, right? So I made these little cheese balls and we dressed them up with some pretzel sticks and some things to sort of give them a little bit of expression. But the best thing about it was the eyes. We made these eyes that just look absolutely terrifying. So much so that my kid was telling me that he didn't want to eat one because he thought it might devour his soul. So, yeah. So that was a really good one. So okay, so for I'm gonna throw one more out there and tell me what you think you should bring to the potluck for this particular movie. Of course, it's got to be Gremlins. What do we bring to the potluck for Gremlins? Any
Hmm.
ideas?
I'll go ahead and go first here because I think, you know, for a main course, it's pretty obvious. It's a turducken.
Of
Wait a
course.
minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. You have to explain that, please.
Well, you have one thing, right? And then you have another thing inside of it.
Oh, that's a good one.
Plus, it's festive for the holidays, like the movie.
Yeah.
And so, along with that, we should also bring Kool-Aid, right? Because it's one thing when it's not wet, and then it's another thing when it is wet.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, just checking, just checking.
And of course, to round things out, some nice movie popcorn to enjoy. Maybe Snow White.
I do feel like that is super important. The popcorn, and also, just load up as many snacks as you possibly can in your arms as you're walking toward the couch, just so that you get like the full effect.
Yeah.
That feels very important.
I
All right, what would you bring to our Gremlins dinner, Tori?
don't know. I don't know. Some fried chicken, maybe.
Oh, that's a good one. Fried chicken is actually a very good one.
Yeah.
I'm down for that. I I think that we should bring a cake that looks like terrible. Just, I don't, I'm not really even sure how to describe it, but basically it just like crumbles in the middle or whatever, and we'll call it the Peltzer pound cake. Well, I'm sorry that it didn't quite work out the way it was supposed to, but it's probably delicious anyway. That would
That's
be my
funny.
idea.
That's
Yes.
a good idea. Good idea.
Well, this was super fun. I am really happy that we're all here, and I'm really excited about the movies that you guys came up with. I hope other people come up with really even better ones than these. I know that they're out there, and I know that there are some cult classics out there that I haven't even heard of that I would love to see with little tiny creatures. Practical effects used to be so amazing. So I'm really excited to hear what other people have to say. So, Tori, how can we get you on social media, or how would you like people to reach out and touch you?
Well, I have my own show on the indie radio. It's called the Infectious Geek, and it's on at 9 o'clock every Friday. And this week we're going to be talking about the occult and all sorts of, dark and sinister things. And it'll be great. We're going to delve into the world of that. And you can also get me on Facebook as Tory Rush, and that's ToryRush. And on Instagram is Rush Tory. So look me up, ask me questions, watch my show, and it was so fun to be on this one. Thank you for having me on.
Suggest a brownie recipe. That could also be really fun. We'll get people to suggest a brownie recipe for you.
Okay, yes, suggest a brownie recipe that may or may not include cannabis. Okay.
Okay, Josh, how can we find you on social media?
Well, before
Or
I
how
get
can
to that,
people reach?
I want to throw one more thing out there as far as our theme goes,
Go.
because we had an expert weigh in
Mm.
on a wine pairing.
Oh, that's right. Oh my gosh.
Our friends over at Fine Wine and Tastings on Maine, way down there outside of Sarasota, I think, have suggested to go with this theme of little critters. A Petite Syrah. The grapes are physically smaller than most other wine grapes, but result in intensely dark wines with bold tannins. Similarly to the small critters / sidekicks with their bold personalities.
I can say that I've actually had this type of wine, and it is definitely a different tasting wine than you probably have had before. It is very bold, I think is a good that's probably a good descriptor. That is a very good wine. Excellent choice.
And that was from our
Bravo.
friends at Fine Wine and Tastings on Maine.
Nice. Um so next week when we are talking about our theme, one thing that I think that we should do is actually think about our wine way before we even talk. In fact, ingesting a couple of glasses might really be the best way to get things going. Just
Yes.
just just an open suggestion, just saying. Okay, well, I thank you so much for coming to the show, both of you. I had a really good time. Thank you for listening. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Next week, we will have another movie potluck. And next week, our theme is going to be one that I have wanted to do for a long time: strong women in science
Oh yeah.
fiction settings.
Oh yeah.
So if you know or have a suggestion for a strong woman in a science fiction setting, please let us know. I would love to include the movie title. I would love to have a discussion about it, and maybe we can even come up with something to bring to the potluck for them, as them, with them, who knows. Let's discuss.
I already know. I already know. I have it in my head. Okay. It's
Nobody
gonna
can
be
choose
great.
Ripley. Sorry. No,
No.
Ripley's out. Okay. Thank you all so much for joining in. We'll see you next week.